It seems like the big conversation of 2022 is going to be about massive publishers gobbling up the little fish. And, well, with that activity well underway in 2022, with acquisition efforts that have already been moving in the last however many months, sounds like we all need to just sit down and have a chat about what our future looks like. Kind of like our parents telling our kids we're divorcing. There's some good news and some bad news here, I think, and I'm going to use this video to kind of lay that all down from my perspective. We'll conjecture about what studios or other publishers may be gobbled up by the other giants, what it means for them, what it means for you, and of course the pros and cons, and what is likely going to be turned into a heavily consolidated gaming industry by year's end. Let's talk about it, shall we? Ladies and gentlemen, you have bought the LZ for $12.8 billion. Thank you for making me that much richer. While you take my intellectual property and ruin it. No, but seriously, today I want to kind of take my perspective and talk through these recent acquisitions and possibly what's going to be the future of these acquisitions, because I know that's the big piece of the conversation now. Like, ever since Microsoft bought up Bethesda, it's been a huge kind of scare tactic and worry tactic about the regulars on YouTube crying about anti-consumer whatever. Which we'll get to, of course. Now, of course, I want to set the metric for the conversation here by first establishing sort of where I am on this issue. I mentioned it in the last video just a little bit from yesterday, but I kind of want to deeper define that now. Where do I stand on these kinds of acquisitions? I'm not super comfortable with a monopoly type of deal, right? Even the prospect of something like Fallout 5 or Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4 or whatever it is that they're doing being on one platform is kind of limiting when it comes to sort of gamer access, right? And honestly, I do think these sort of console manufacturers should really find a lane and stay in it, right? Like, I've seen some joking conversation on Twitter about Sony buying Nintendo, and as fun as I would think it would be to play a Mario or a Zelda game on PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 6, I don't want that, right? I think things are kind of okay as they are now, right? Switch is selling gangbusters, and, you know, the seal of quality for Nintendo is perpetually good. I think Nintendo cares as little about its back library as Sony does, so that's a match made in heaven. But I just don't see the need for that kind of acquisition to happen, nor do I think it would be reasonable. I don't think Sony's got that kind of money to throw at Nintendo for that. Microsoft might. That would definitely be one way for Microsoft to up their Japan game for sure, because they're a little lacking in that aspect. But I do think there is some good to these acquisitions, right? And let me give an example. The Bethesda acquisition by Microsoft maybe wasn't necessary, right? That was definitely a grab to expand their portfolio. Game Pass and Xbox's portfolio is definitely cooled off on the whole rhetoric of Xbox got no games lately, because while they might be, well, at least until this year, a little lacking in the first party titles, right? We just got Infinite, we just got Forza, we've got Gears on the way, we've got Perfect Dark on the way, but some of those things are a little ways off, right? But now we have Starfield, we have Elder Scrolls and things. So their gaming library and their intellectual property library has immensely grown. So was that necessary? Sure, to increase their library, but I don't know that it was really it wasn't the best for gamers, right? You've got these PS people, these PlayStation folks that are just like, hey, I want my Fallout 5. Not gonna get it, bro. You're either gonna buy a PC or you're gonna buy an Xbox. That's just how it is. But when I think about a good example of an acquisition, right? Microsoft buying Activision, I think, was a net positive for everyone involved, right? And that's not just you, the consumer, right? It's probably okay for you too, because if I'm Phil Spencer, I don't envision him selling Call of Duty on just Microsoft platforms. It's too big, right? It's like taking Minecraft, which is sold more than Jesus, It's what are you talking about? Like 80 million copies or more for Minecraft? They would be silly to remove that or not expand that on all the platforms it exists on. Call of Duty is giant, and I don't reasonably think that it's going to make them as much money limiting it to a platform than just simply making it open for everybody. And that's outside of the current existing contractual agreements that they already have with Sony. The Activision merger was a great thing because Activision was in the dumps, right? Terrible leadership, terrible working environment. They have a million studios all working on one franchise. Too many cooks in the kitchen. The franchises have been driven into the ground when it comes to quality. It's just not a good situation for everybody, right? Call of Duty is tanking or at least completely slowing in sales. Vanguard, I don't think performed that well. Versus previous Call of Duties that were better. Warzone's having a crisis when it comes to quality and unionization efforts. Right now, Activision is ongoing, probably what's likely to be the biggest union-crushing effort that they can try to hopefully mount, or not hopefully for them, next to, like, say, the previous Amazon attempts that recently failed due to corporate influence and corporate union-busting tactics. It's just not a good company, right? So when you take and again, I'm not an Xbox fanboy. I don't have an Xbox right now. I do own Game Pass on PC, just to put that out there. But I think it was a good idea because Xbox, Phil Spencer, and that whole division is in such a good place right now. Super pro-consumer. Phil Spencer is a god when it comes to knowing who his customer is. Game Pass is an undeniable deal, so much so that even PlayStation gamers are begging Sony for a Game Pass equivalent, right? This is important in that sort of positioning in that business structure. Even if it's growing the might of Microsoft, simply the status quo changing for Activision is a net positive in almost every fashion, right? I know we don't need the Microsoft to be any bigger than what they already are, right? They've got the kind of money to buy everyone. So I think it's a great thing. I hope that it works out as good as my feeble mind is attempting to position it, and I hope some good comes out of it, right? I hope that, Call of Duty slows down a little bit, take a break, release every couple of years, give the studios more time to do better projects. Speaking of however many studios you have, there's like 10, 12 studios that they are all working on Call of Duty right now, when you can put all of those other studios on, obviously lesser important IP than Call of Duty, but still expanding that library, right? They own things like Crash Bandicoot now. This would be the equivalent of buying Konami and actually making games. Speaking of that, obviously the new elephant in the room that just crashed in and just screamed hello and oh yeah, the Bungie acquisition by Sony. To me, yet again, another one of those unnecessary acquisitions, right? I mean, I don't know that Bungie was necessarily in a bad spot. As a matter of fact, they just freed themselves from Activision's grip, which I kind of celebrated because the minute that they broke up with Activision was the minute we saw pretty big improvements in how they were, like Destiny 2 went free to play and had a more content delivery structure. And while they're in a little bit of hot water when it comes to like the Disney Vault that they have for, sort of legacy content for Destiny, it was, again, a net positive for them to be on their own. So Sony scooping them up, they positioned it as a good thing, right? It does give Bungie a lot more cash flow, a lot more power to do other things with their franchises. I bet that Bungie is working on something pretty monumental that PlayStation really wanted their hands on. But Jim Ryan is dropped the bomb already to expect more acquisitions to be on the way, right? He already mentioned, finger quotes, there are more moves to make, right? There are gears turning somewhere. As a matter of fact, Gary Whitta, I don't know how related he is to this, but there is suggestions that there is an acquisition pending announcement that is going to be as big or bigger than Microsoft buying Activision, which I don't know how you get bigger than that, right? I don't know how you get bigger than that other than maybe buying EA, which Electronic Arts, I don't see as the company that wants to be bought with their level of hubris. I almost see them as the ones that want to do the buying. I think, as a matter of fact, on the previous investor call that they had a couple of days ago, they mentioned as much that they were looking into acquisition. Speaking of bad examples of acquisitions, any acquisition that Electronic Arts has ever done has been a bad idea because EA is historically popular for taking studios out back and shooting them, right? Some of your favorite, studios from decade, right, is no longer in existence because, the greedy sort of machine that is EA needed to tighten the belt a little bit, right? But based on the baseline that I've already established in today's video, really surrounding good acquisitions, right? I can't think of anything else that will be a better idea than somebody scooping up Konami, right? You have this wonderful sort of legacy publisher with excellent IP, right? Silent Hill, Metal Gear, Castlevania, all of these studios, or all of these franchises, these intellectual property left at the mercy of a gambling business proposition, right? They have been crap ever since they broke up with Kojima, and it's sad. It's sad to see, really, it is. If I am one of these publishers, like if I'm Sony right now, I've got several people from Konami on the phone. It's like, hey, you know what? Keep your gambling garbage. Let me buy your intellectual property off you. I will buy the rights to Metal Gear. I will buy the rights to Silent Hill. I will buy the rights to Castlevania and whatever else that they have going. Bomberman, let me have those things, and I will give you several billion for those franchises, right? What do you say? $5-6 billion for, legacy IP and rights to, reproduce those. Let them have their gambling business. Let it be part of the deal that they can continue to use those IP for gambling. I don't care, right? I'm no investor. I'm not a pro at this, but that to me is a good acquisition because that means that's a better net positive for you. Do you think that Sony would buy Konami and not make the next Silent Hill after the hype that Silent Hills had and then subsequently crushed, 5 years ago? It would be a great idea. I've seen some other ones floated too, like the possible acquisition of Square-Enix. I don't know how I feel about that one. That's a tough sell, right? They seem to be doing okay right now, as a matter of fact. So that would be a huge thing. They already have a deep relationship with Sony anyway, right? Final Fantasy 16 is going to be exclusive for PlayStation 5. Final Fantasy 7 Remake was exclusive for a very long time. Final Fantasy 14 seems to be the most popular MMO out there that I know of. I'm not an MMO player, so to speak, but so to close out the positives of acquisitions, right? If you're pulling a publisher or a bunch of studios and treasured IPs out of the mud to do them justice, I say buy away, right? They are better there than left in the dirt to rot because previous mismanagement, previous toxic culture, and all of those things put them there. But if it eventually leads into studio closures, firings, and even further mismanagement of already mismanaged IPs, well, maybe you can just leave them there. Let us keep our positive memories of these things. With that said, I want to hear from you in the comment section. Do you think these are a good idea or not? What acquisitions would you accept and why? I would like to read that. I think that's great to engage with. And for more video game industry commentary like this, like and subscribe, and see you in the next one.